Hello and welcome to On the Record with me, Shereen, Bhan. It is my great pleasure to bring on to the program today a man who's steering India's largest airline, most profitable airline, and today the world's second most valued airline by market capitalization. Pieter Elbers, it's an honor to have you here on the Record. Thanks very much for joining us on CNBC-TV18. And let me start by congratulating you and your team at IndiGo on your 18th anniversary.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was a wonderful milestone, early August, and thank you for having me in your show.
Well, it is quite a milestone, but Peter, you know, as an outsider who came into IndiGo from KLM a little over 2.5 years ago, as you look at the IndiGo story and how it's unfolded from the time when it started to where it is today, complete dominance in terms of market share, almost enjoy about, between 60 and 70% at any given point in time. In terms of cost competitiveness, again, in terms of a strong balance sheet and profitability, what, to your mind, has been the big differentiator in ensuring this consistent success of IndiGo?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Indeed, we celebrated 18 years, so we're a relatively young airline for international standards. And when I joined IndiGo a little over 2 years back, actually we were just exiting the entire COVID pandemic,
yes,
and traffic was really rebounding. I think what we have done at that point in time is really to take all the right decisions to make sure that we could benefit from that, call it revenge travel, which was taking place at that point in time. And that brought us really from a customer basis of 70 million customers to a little over 100 million customers last year. So, and probably that also symbolizes, you ask what's the success of IndiGo throughout that 18 years. I think it's a couple of things really. First of all, the right decisions at the right time. Secondly, making sure that we're matching the needs of our customers, which is, you know, affordable air travel, and certainly a flawless execution by all my IndiGo colleagues, and that probably is the most important asset of the company, which is our people.
Well, yes, people are crucial, and execution, of course, is key, as you point out. But let's talk about IndiGo 2.0, because you said one of the success factors has been doing the right thing at the right time. Let's talk about the decisions that you've decided to go with, which is introducing business class, as well as a much sought-after loyalty program, finally, after 18 years. Why do you believe this is the right time for both these decisions?
Now take a step back and see where we are today. Today it's 24. IndiGo started to operate 18 years back. The India of today is a very different India than the India of 18 years back. And so will be the India in 5 years from now. So when I joined 2 years ago, we set a point on the horizon, being 2030, said, what type of airline does India need by 2030? And clearly the vision was India at that point in time will not only need a very strong domestic carrier, but India's role on the global stage will also be a different one. By that time, India will be the third largest economy in the world. It will be even stronger and closer and deeper connected to many other countries. That requires an airline or airlines which is size and scale, which can operate and compete on a global basis. So I think our benchmark there should be how are we doing on the global level, and not per se only how are we doing on a domestic level. So all the decisions which we have taken over the past 2 years, and admittedly it has been a rather busy 2 years, but all these decisions are part of that ambition and objective we're having by being a global airline player by 2030.
A global airline player by 2030. How do the priorities change? How does the execution roadmap change at IndiGo to ensure that you deliver on that promise and that aspiration?
Well, that's a very, very valid point. So the very foundation of IndiGo is our domestic operation. So today we operate 88 domestic destinations. Now, if you think about, Shereen, 86% of the Indian population is living within a 2-hour drive, provided it's not raining, but living within a 2-hour drive from an
on a very lucky day.
No, it's living in a 2-hour drive from an IndiGo served airport. So that in itself shows the coverage. So we have these 88 domestic destinations and a little over 400 domestic routes. So that's the very foundation of what we are. But increasingly, that is going international. So today, around a quarter of our seat miles are international. That percentage will go up to 30% in the foreseeable future, and will go up even further. So the next step, if you wish, IndiGo 2.0, will be solidly rooted and deeply rooted in India, because that's what we are, and moving from there to a global stage. Therefore, we need different planes which can fly further. Next year we get the Airbus 321 XLR coming in that will bring us well into Europe, well into Asia, and from the southern part of India even to Australia. That in itself requires also a different product domestically. That's exactly why we are launching, prior to the end of this year, a business class for the first time on the nation's busiest and business routes. And indeed, and we're very excited about that, we start our loyalty program by the end of this month.
You know, I'll get to the international aspiration in a bit, but I want to pick up on what you just said. IndiGo's story, and many would attribute the success to the fact that it was the original lean, mean machine. Simplicity was really the driving philosophy, was driving the purpose as far as IndiGo is concerned. Now, as you add these layers of complexity, I mean, business class, loyalty programs, and so on and so forth, you know, how do you change or tweak the DNA of the organization to go from that mindset of simplicity now to what you call thoughtful complexity?
You know, I think the mindset of simplicity was driven by the ambition to keep cost leadership.
Yeah.
I mean, the simplicity was not the objective in itself. It was a means to an end, and the means to an end was cost leadership. So our ambition to keep cost leadership in this incredible competitive Indian market will remain to be there. But if the additional cost of complexity are outweighed by the additional revenues to be obtained, we should go after that opportunity. I think back to some of the earlier decisions, even today, before implementing these new decisions, IndiGo is different from what it was 18 years ago. We've already sort of left the pure, simple operation. We have an in-flight magazine, we have some catering product, we fly international.
Tea and coffee.
No, more than tea and coffee. We have a co-branded credit card.
Yes.
We are flying actually, you know, we fly 20 a day between Delhi and Mumbai. That's not a classical low-cost type of, you know, diverse network. So we have corporate contracts. We work with the biggest corporates in India as corporate contracts. So that stations we have already left. But now we really want to take the decisions in time. I think there's quite a few examples in the world where companies were sort of late, not per se in aviation only, but even outside, where companies were late in recognizing how the world is changing around you. And I think the Indian world is probably one of the fastest changing worlds, one of the fastest changing countries in the world. And we are, believe, well positioned to benefit from that.
So does the low-cost positioning then change as well as you move towards international travel, as you move towards adding things like business class and loyalty programs? Does that cost position at the back end start to change as well?
Well, it depends a bit, Shereen, what is your definition of low-cost position? We are determined to keep our cost leadership. And, you know, 2 days from now, flying to a city is still 3,000 rupees. So for that, we need to keep that cost leadership out there. And we're not making any changes on that product, on that setting. But on top of that, we start to build what we are doing. So if you see our business class, which we are going to introduce, we do that in what we call the nation's busiest and business routes. 20 a day between Delhi and Mumbai, 14 a day between Delhi and Bangalore, 13 a day between Delhi and Hyderabad. So that's a set of routes. But it won't be operational between Delhi and Guwahati. So we are basically tailor-making and creating a, if you wish, a set of routes where this is applicable. You know, other parts of the world...
And which will be profitable as well.
Yes, other parts of the world, they would just sort of roll it out all over. We feel, you know, this is the thing we do today. Maybe in 3 years' time, when you and I are sitting together again and say, you know...
You'll add Guwahati.
Well, or Pune, or, you know, there's probably other stations prior to that. But, you know, I think we change as we go along. And those cities are also precisely the cities from where the XLR will start flying. Those cities are cities from where wide bodies can start flying. So, you know, it's not... None of these decisions one should look into isolation. It's all connected.
No, it is all connected. And so you said that these decisions are taken when you believe that the revenue advantage outweighs the incremental cost that you will have to take. Can you give me a ballpark estimate of what, for instance, the business class introduction is going to mean as far as revenue impact is concerned when you see a full rollout across the 12 routes that you spoke of? What is the international expansion going to result in terms of a revenue bump up as well going forward?
Yeah, okay. Those are 4 questions in one. Let me try to deal them one by one. So the business class will be introduced in November of this year. It will start on Delhi-Mumbai. Of course, we got one plane. It will start as we fly 20 a day, one plane is not enough. So by the end of this calendar year, the entire Delhi-Mumbai operation will be fully business class equipped. So all our 20 flights a day, maybe one or two, but all the 20 flights is our ambition. Courtesy Airbus being on time with deliveries, we have all the flights there. Then we start to add Bangalore, Hyderabad, and all the other ones after that. So the objective clearly is we start in November of 24, and by the end of 25, all these 12 routes, all these 40 plus planes which will operate this route are in operation. So first question, start is in November, finish by the end of calendar year 25. Then it's all operation, and it will sort of gradually, step by step, go there. That's one. Two, the introduction fares we have announced on our birthday. I think we're 18,018 rupees. I'm sure that we have some nice marketing twist to it. Of course, these prices will go up and down over time, but that was the introduction fare we have introduced on this route. We'll be having 12 seats on the plane. You know, we haven't made any sort of disclosure on what the exact revenue percentage will be, but these number of planes as a part of the total subset, you know, it's going to be 40 planes on a total of 400, but then the revenues will be higher, of course, of business class. So it's going to be a sizable percentage, but it's going to be, as I shared earlier with some conversations, it's going to be significant enough to be impactful and prudent enough to make sure that we're not putting all the other stuff we have sort of under that umbrella. The international part is actually also interesting. So today we have 27%. We fly to 34 international destinations, and before the end of the year that jumps up to 40. That percentage will go up to 30% as share. Next year, that percentage go even further up with the introduction of the XLR and later on the wide body. So we see that process is changing. And with that, the very foundation of IndiGo will still be flying and connecting Indians in the country itself. The expansion is going to be that part.
Well, you know, and I want to understand from you what the traveler should expect as far as the business class experience is concerned, but linking it back to the complexity question that I asked you about, because is the domestic business class play more a sort of experiment with what you intend to do as far as the international plans are concerned? And, you know, you talked about the linkages. Are you testing waters here with the business class experience in order for you to cater to what you intend to do internationally?
You know, maybe we go back a little bit in the IndiGo history and when IndiGo was founded. And I think at that time it was founded, let's see what's important for the customer. Whatever is not important, we're not offering, we're not spending money on it, and we put it in the price and that. And that has been incredibly successful. The basis of that is that today millions and millions of Indians have been able to travel by air, which used to go by train or car, or not at all. So the millions of first-time flyers, I think, is a very strong asset of IndiGo, and we keep building on that. That's why the basis remains to be there. And I think the under-penetration of air travel in India is still providing millions and millions more of that. So that's going to remain the very basis of that. On the business class, you could have a similar approach. What is most important for the business class travel? I think people talk a lot about, you know, I want to have a hot meal.
Yeah.
But what's most important actually is the space you're having, is some of the privacy you're having, to make sure you're last in and first out. It's sure you have a smooth airport transfer. So what we have done, we have basically singled out what are the key important aspects for our customers, and are we ready to spend money on that, and what is nice for a conversation, but not per se nice for decision making. Same goes for lounges. We will not have domestic lounges because people come late anyway and they go quickly to the gate. So it doesn't add anything. So we believe that by introducing what we call a tailor-made IndiGo product, we have a product which works in the Indian market. We will look the exact same thing the moment we will start to define what's going to be our exact product on the XLR and on the wide body. We haven't defined it yet. It's still work in progress, and we have not yet given any sort of guidance on what precisely it would look like. But the approach, and I can share that with you, is going to be the exact same. We look what is important for our customer, and from there we start to build.
We're going to take a break here on the record and continue our conversation with Pieter Elbers on IndiGo's flight path. That's coming up right after this. Welcome back. You're watching On the Record. I'm Shereen, Bhan, and we're in conversation with IndiGo's Pieter Elbers on their aspiration to convert IndiGo to a global airline. What looks most exciting to you from an Indian aviation point of view? And I ask you this in the context of the fact that it's a story that's seen very little success and more failure. I'm not asking you to comment on what has led to the failure, but I'm asking you to comment on why you are such a big believer in the Indian aviation growth story today.
Again, I think part of it is timing, and I think certain dynamics have taken place in India when it comes to economic development, which will not go back anymore. So, you know, aviation is always there's always a correlation between GDP growth and aviation. But what we see today is probably a couple of elements coming together. One is the GDP growth. Two is the fact that the infrastructure is being upgraded significantly. So the government policies when it comes to making more airports, when it comes to enlarging existing airports, when it comes to enlarging facilities. You know, if you see some of the new airports which are there, or some of the changes, Bangalore I think is a great It's a fantastic airport, it's a world-class airport. Next year we have a new airport in Delhi. Finally we have 2 airports in Delhi.
Mumbai?
I was about to come to Mumbai, but you're quicker than that. You know, we have Shanghai, New York, Tokyo, Paris, London, Sao Paulo. They all have 2 airports. Delhi had only 1, and Mumbai had 1, and the one in Mumbai, even with all its limitations in terms of runway. So against that backdrop, I believe that GDP growth, infrastructure, consumer spending, and the demographic dividend of the country will fuel that aviation boom, domestic and certainly international as well.
Given the fact that you've got the largest order that you've placed globally, how are you dealing with the current supply constraints, and what could that mean potentially as far as your own expansion plans are concerned?
You know, the global manufacturing or aircraft manufacturers and engine manufacturers are clearly still struggling after 2 years with all the post-COVID supply chain workforce challenges we're having. I think IndiGo is actually very well positioned. IndiGo placed already a couple of orders prior to COVID, which we are benefiting now. And indeed last year, and it's probably one of the highlights, we placed the largest ever aircraft order with 500 planes coming in for the next decade. Which means that IndiGo has 1 plane a week for the next decade to come into India. So as much as we're sort of engaging with the manufacturers, and you know, you said it's going to be July 1st, so please deliver on July 1st. I think with our bases here, we are equipped to deal with that. In addition, we've taken quite a few mitigating measures, you know, some short-term leases, some operational measures to live up to our capacity guidance. And we've done so last year, and we've done so our first quarter as well.
So are we likely to see that, the leases be something that you aggressively take forward more and more, given the constraints, with what, about 70-odd planes grounded at this point in time on account?
I would hope less and less, candidly. You know, if these planes, you know, over time these manufacturers will get their supply chain sorted out.
But what is the indication that you get at this point in time?
I wish I would have a sharper view on that. So we're constantly engaging to them, and basis that we've taken some proactive measures, of which the leases are one of them. Over time, I believe that these issues will be sorted out, and with these issues being sorted out, we are back to basically the IndiGo operation as it stands today. And again, here I think IndiGo is uniquely positioned. There's no airline in the world receiving as many planes as IndiGo does. So sort of every month that goes by, I mean, average level, we get four new planes coming in. So every month that's come by, 4 new are coming in. So we're basically building up that buffer in order to deal with those fluctuations. So and I would say at one point in time, whenever that is past us, we should be able to do without some of these short-term leases.
The thing that IndiGo launched with and prided itself on was on-time performance, and what we have seen happen is that there has been a deterioration in that number, and it has impacted not just your, numbers, but the industry in general on account of the fact that you're the largest player in the business. What is the challenge? What's the biggest problem at this point in time? And as a consumer, we're sort of circling around Delhi and Mumbai for a good 30 to 40 minutes before we land on any given flight that we take. What's the big challenge that you're facing there?
Well, I can assure you, Shereen, we're not letting you circle around Delhi or Mumbai for the fun of circling around Delhi or Mumbai.
That's what I'm going to ask you. Like, why are we dealing with these issues today? Is it? I mean, you hear air traffic control, you hear congestion. What exactly is the problem?
I think that's two of the reasons. We are closely collaborating with the airports, with air traffic control, in order to cope with demand. I think what's happening in India, the entire growth post-COVID is going at such a pace where we need to keep up also with the infrastructure on the ground, infrastructure on the air. So a lot of the efforts today are being made to make sure that that infrastructure is there. And some places in the country it goes quick and fast, and some other locations, I think Delhi is one of them, it's just complex. It's 3 terminals and then the runways, and a lot of work is being done and expansion is going on. So it's really a collaborative approach which we need to have. Clearly the bad weather season which we had last winter has learned us a lot of lessons. It didn't all went well. Also on our side we learned a lot. So we did our best. Our teams did really a fantastic job. But did it all go well? No, it didn't. So also there we are learning on how to do better. So, for example, for this winter we have created an entire set of sort of operational preparations, if you wish. Increase some block times, increase some operational procedures, change some metrics, have some further enhancements of airports infrastructure. Operational decisions to be taken. So that's all being prepared in order to deal with that challenge. And I'm glad you point out it's an industry challenge, but for us, indeed, given the size which we have, and especially on Delhi and Mumbai, which are the most busy airports when it comes to sort of usage of airspace, that's a challenge for all.
Can you say goodbye to us in Hindi? Can you say goodbye to us in Hindi now that you've learned Jugaad?
We'll keep that for next time.
We'll keep that for next time. Peter, it's been an absolute pleasure. We wish you the very best of luck as you kickstart your 19th year here in India and aspire to take IndiGo global. But many, many thanks for your time and appreciate you joining us here on The Record.
Thank you so much. My
Well,
pleasure.
with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of On The Record. From all of us here on the team for now, goodbye and many thanks for watching.